Yeah.
So one thing I was going to say about the context of the political and social environment right now is how important it is, as we're faced with this reality in our politics, our American politics anyway, how important it is to do our own work so that we're able to hold this larger social context for what's happening in the world. I don't know if we'll have the tolerance to be with how painful that is, if we haven't or aren't doing our own work. And I'm curious kind of what your thoughts are, how you might contextualize some of that around personal work and how that might reflect one's ability to be with this larger social situation that we're dealing around with abortion, and abortion potentially becoming illegal again. And what are the implications of that, of the fear and anger and grief that arise around being told we don't have a choice over our own body anymore. The grounds of and the implications of that are so huge for us to hold in a community, let alone as an individual. So I'm just would love to hear kind of how you might frame that.
Well, you know, that great old, saying that the triggers are the guides. And there's a lot that will be triggering for sure. Anytime that there's an external force or party that comes in to start to limit or to control your own reproductive health or freedom, it brings up a lot from our transgenerational histories, from our past, from our own life and experience, our trauma from this lifetime. I think one of the important opportunities there for women who have had freedom or experienced, at least being a Westerner in the 21st century, is that there are many people, women on the planet, who are very much in a position of not having or have ever experienced anything but oppression when it comes to their reproductive choice and their reproductive health. Collectively as a planet, we really are being called now to come together and to make some big decisions about what the future is going to look like. And Moon Lodge, we meet in a circle because we are empowered by being together, holding space together in a egalitarian way, where we all hold the same amount of space in the same form. No one's position is more than the other person's position. And as we're being called right now to do the interior work for ourselves, as we do that work for our own healing, our own trauma, the reflection is also going to be to help spread that and to heal the aches and pains and trauma that the earth is experiencing. Once you see suffering in yourself and in the world, the next step is to act, to do something about it, to do something to heal that suffering, to make change. And we can't do that alone. We have to do that with other people. We have to do that with the strength and support of our sisters and other women.
Yeah, that's beautiful. One of the pieces that I feel personally that we're facing in that Moon Lodge addresses in the community circle or the Sangha, as we sit and hold which is too big for us to hold alone or as individuals, is we're addressing the healing. And as you spoke to our individual healing, the healing of the interior, and as we bring that into repair and into integrity, then we're also brought into these interrelational work around the sisterhood, and also then the larger community or global community. And we have a political system here which we're confronting now, all women, and hopefully our allies and the men that surround us will support us in recognizing that having our own choice about reproductive issues is of the utmost importance. And we're looking at this individual wound, a cultural wound, and a global wound. And that is this global wound of the mother in relationship to the earth as well. So we have an opportunity to do our own work, but really as a benefit for all beings and a benefit for the world itself, for the earth herself. So we're healing on all these levels.
That's right. Thich Nhat Hanh has a new book out called Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet. And, he's a master, an amazing teacher. And one of the things I've always loved about his work is his clarity and the simplicity of stillness and listening. And he's talking a lot about how we are a culture, a civilization that borrows. We are all used to borrowing from the future. We borrow to improve our house. We borrow to improve our education. We borrow to improve our physique. We borrow. We've borrowed from the earth. And the root of that is that in our own presence, our own stillness, we've become distrustful and almost disempowered by the actual strength that's underneath our feet and in our hands and in our breath in every moment. And the opportunity, again, within everything, whenever you hit those moments of when something falls apart, when something doesn't happen when you want it to, when you're having these spiritual emergencies, the opportunity there is to look at the pain, to look at the suffering, to look at the things that have dug in so deep that you feel like there's no other answer, and to make the choice to shift it, to go into the fear and the shadow, instead of just plugging in another operating system that repeats the patterning that you came from, right? So one of the things that I've realized in my own work with clients, and I know that you've realized this through your work with clients and people you work with too, Lucia, is that we've come to a point where the individual work, the work just interior over and over again, it's a powerful work, and it also very much needs to be done. But people really also are yearning for a space to be honest and to share and to be back in community with others. And I feel like that's a part of the healing process that is necessary, and also I believe is a step towards moving to this other level of realization that we all are one, we all are connected here on the planet, and if we are going to make shifts for the future, that we have to do it together.
Beautiful. And why is it beneficial to go into the shadow? So many times I feel like people ask this question of, well, why? That's the last place I want to go. I would do anything to avoid that kind of place. And how does it benefit me to work with trauma, or to be with trauma, or to go into the dark or the shadow or the healing aspect that might be there? Like, what's the point? And so what's on the other side? And could you just speak to that for a moment? Because for many people that are in the question of, is that a healthy thing for me? Is that the right choice for me? I think it's important that they understand why. Why would we do that?
Well, it is a choice, which means that it is free will, which means that you don't have to go into it. Timing is everything when it comes to healing. And sometimes it's not the right time to open the closet that's full of stuff you don't want to look at. But if it is the right time and you're ready to open the closet and deal with the stuff that's been stuffed in there for generations or from your life, because you don't want to suffer in the same way anymore, then looking at those things and looking at the shadows and the fear then becomes a way for you to really step into a place of feeling love. I think that a lot of the fear of not wanting to share that comes from deep rooted and like patterns that we grow up with of conditionality around the way we are loved, We have a lot of conditioning on, like, I'll act this way to get the love that I need, or I'll do this to get the attention and love that I need. And it leaves us with a lot of limiting beliefs about ourselves, and a lot of insecurities about, if I don't act a certain way, then I'll be abandoned, or I'll be neglected or left by my group, by my tribe. And at the end of the day, the journey of being a human being is a very individual one. It's also a very collective one. But the hope is that, you know, as you journey through life, that you fall more and more in love with yourself, right? That you find more and more love for the inner child who carries with it the brokenness and pain of memory, or for the 20-year-old woman who made a lot of mistakes, or for the 30-year-old who, you know, really broke out and made some powerful decisions for herself. You know, you want to find the compassion for yourself, and therefore you can share it with others, truly, deeply, really. That can't really happen until you look at the shadow places, the places where you still hold on to the belief that if you don't, you have to have those in order to continue to be loved. So the potential there is great to evolve and to move, but it does require, you know, digging deep.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. One of the things that Gabrielle Roth would say in her teachings around the path of the heart and healing the heart is that the only way out is through. And I think that's reflective to what you're speaking to here. And if I may draw a broad stroke on this conversation, is to say that the only way out is through, meaning that we have to go through the pain and face the fears and the angers and the grief that surround the pain, so that we can heal it fully and be able to come out of it with appreciation of who we've become from that experience, so that we're also no longer imprisoned by what has held us or holding fear around it, been able to open up to our healing power and our resilience, knowing that we are survivors and we have transformed and become better people from it, and maybe even more compassionate people in our ability to love not only the conditional aspects which you are naming of who we've had to be in form the ego side of our personalities, but to open up our understanding of love to hold everything, so that's unconditional love, and that's within ourselves, also within the Sangha circle or tribe, as we do in Moon Lodge, to let our love be expansive enough to hold the fears, the angers, the losses, so that we may also celebrate together and open up in service and compassion to ourselves and to each other and to the larger collective of the world in which we're facing right now, this current situation. So in the end, there's a story of joy, and there's a story of peace and happiness and forgiveness and connection. And I think that's what's important for us to really land on, that this story is not as powerful without that we don't just land on the story being about the deep, dark shadows and traumas, but there's a reason that we visit those in order to really end the story in peace and wholeness and resiliency and joy and gratitude and appreciation for everything that we are and have been, so that we can rest in a place of open-hearted, expansive compassion to ourselves and to the world. And then our love is able to hold everything and rise up in its fullness. And that's what I think, just to highlight the depth of the work is, you know, as above, so below. The deeper that we're able to go into those realms of the shadow is also reflective of the height and authenticity of our joy and happiness. And that's where we're really trying to get to. And as we mark a circle, we also mark as above, so below, this aspect of wholeness, right? That there's the joy, but there's the sorrows, but there's also the joys. And I think that it's so important for people to have the context of that wholeness in the perspective of what we're bringing and holding here in these circles, so that it's not too weighted on one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. beautiful. I was thinking of that Bob Dylan quote, you know, I'll make it she instead of he, but she not busy being born is busy dying, right? And I was just thinking as you were dying, she not busy being born is busy dying. It takes such a huge amount of energy to keep those shadows, to keep those fears fed, you know?
Mhm.
It's exhausting to protect your fears, to protect the shadows.
Right.
And there's a really exhilarating and heart opening experience that occurs when you share those fears with others, where other people bear witness to what you've kept so under lock and chain, that you can literally feel in your body as a just huge burst of energy, you know, for what's potential, what can happen outside of this constant drain of having to go and feed the shadow, right?
Yeah.
The best I've experienced that energy for myself is in when people were able to bear witness, when I was able to speak to others in a way where I felt compassion, and in a way where I felt I wasn't being judged, where I was being loved for who I am. And that's the goal and the power of being together in compassion and in a sacred listening space, is that we can provide that for each other.
Yes, I agree 100%. And as you mentioned, the bearing witness piece, and I know that it's a deep influence in my own work, has been the work of Bernie Glassman. And those are the three tenets that are the basis for all of his work, which now he's passed away. But it just really touched, and remembering those three tenets of not knowing, resting in a position of not knowing, and second of bearing witness to myself and all that I am experiencing, as well as we hold a circle or in council work or in Moon Lodge in a woman's circle, to be able to bear witness to others and how healing that is. And the third tenet being the right action, to be able to take skillful or right action in the moment where we're really up against our deepest shadows, which can be this a behavior of hypervigilance, or they can be very undermining to our lives. And so how do we really track all of that, and then recognize there that we can take action versus reaction, and that's where our action becomes right action or skillful action in the face of all of these things that we're experiencing. And I love that. I love bringing those tenets in, of not knowing, bearing witness, and of rightful or skillful action, because that's where this takes it into the larger conversation of, well, I'm impacting myself, but how am I impacting my community? What is the larger impact and mission impact of the work that I'm doing? It's not enough to just be selfish. This is all about me and my own healing, but my healing is the basis and the energetic which ripples out into the healing of my sisters and within my family and within my communities and within the larger context of our country and what we're facing politically, and then into the world, and of course into the great Mother Earth, which is really the ultimate wound that's gaping in our world right now, asking us to be healed. And I think it's really going to require women gathering together and becoming empowered for the deep shift to take place.
Indeed. Yeah. So I'm super excited about being able to do this at Moon Lodge, which is starting on January 17th, right around the corner on Mondays. Oh, and it goes through February 21st. There's a great description of what each week is what we're gonna cover, and what we're gonna go through on our website, which is at SLN.org under online classes. And there we go. Hi, little one. Yay. Are you going to come to Moon Lodge? You going to come to be a part of Moon Lodge some? I hope so. Yeah. I know that Lucia and I have put in a lot of time and intent to creating the curriculum. We both have felt called for some time to structure and to build a space for people to gather. And it's really exceptional right now that, again, through the kind of tragedy, the opportunity has become that now we can have an online global digital platform to join up with each other. And I'm hoping that it'll be a lot like, bringing people together who haven't had the chance to meet women together. I had a pen pal when I was in third grade who lived in France named Lisa Berger. And I'm kind of feeling that I'm going to find a new pen pal in this Moon Lodge coming up, and many pen pals. So I can just share and explain my perception of what's happening in the world, and hear theirs. And through that, and that shared perspective, we're going to have a chance to really formulate new relationships, which I think is going to be an added bonus of doing some of the work that is a little bit, on the harder side. It'll all be balanced with also what's joyous and expansive too.
I love hearing you talk about that. And one of the things that is really touching to me as we both sit here in this position and as we plant the seed for this work is that, and you see me here with my daughter, this is Olivia. We're here in benefit, not just for ourselves, and I keep saying this, but for our future generations and for our own children and the children of those women around the world, wherever they come from, however much oppression or systems of systematic prejudice. I mean, we have to do this work for the investment so that our children may receive a better world than we grew up in, and certainly than our parents, grandparents, and great grandparents, where women were not treated as equals. And we have come so far in our political system where we rest now, having the reproductive rights, having the ability to make choices in the United States that many countries don't have. And I certainly want to ensure that my own daughter and the daughters of those I love, and even the strangers I don't know, are able to make the choice around their reproductive rights, and also to know that there is no shame, and that our circles should be held wide and open, and our compassion and our ability to love one another in the circle of sisterhood is supported, so that we can bring everything to this circle without having any shame around what it is we're going through in the rites of passage of becoming a woman, starting your moon, all the way through fertility and into matronhood and into the wisdom crone. We have to have a place where we can lift that veil of shame and be celebrated for every part of the path of life of being a woman. And that is the world I want to leave for my daughter.
Same. If the space doesn't exist, then you have to build it, and so we're building it. Come join us. We're really excited to have you a part of the Moon Lodge Circle, and thanks for listening in today.
Thank you, Julie. I look forward to this journey on behalf of all the children and the children to come.
Yeah.